Hello gobs and welcome back to another episode of RPG Stories. Now I don't think I need to explain myself, but for those of you who just happened upon this video and you don't know what this is, I'm going to RPG Horror subreddit, or my subreddit, or various other places, and I am reading RPG stories and giving advice on them. That's what I'm doing. That's what I've done every episode so far. So go check out my other episodes. Please, I'm on my knees begging. Not really. But anyways, click on my name if you want to see the other type of content I do, because I don't only read RPG horror stories, okay? Lately, I've been playing a slew of various RPGs, and I'm going to continue playing those until, I don't know, something else happens. I'm just having fun. I'm just uploading whatever. So if that interests you, subscribe and stick around, and we are getting into today's episode. But right before we get to the title, these may or may not be real. That is not up for me to decide, and even if they are fake, say it every time, they still make good stories to give advice on, okay? And with all of that out of the way, let's get to the title and into today's stories. Our first story comes from Suspicious Aid 4154, off of the RPG Horror subreddit. A pimp goblin ruined my first RPG experience. Now, I wonder why I picked this. Guys, it wasn't me, okay? I swear, it wasn't me. Let's read the story and figure out who it was. I apologize in advance if my English is not very good. It is not my first language, so I'm relying on a translator. But let's get into it. About a year ago, I had my first RPG experience with Tomata 20. Okay, probably don't put that in there. I'm just saying, you can just say, I had my first RPG experience. Well, wait. Tomata 20 is it's a system, not a person. I was excited mainly because it would be 4 players. 2 of them were my friends, and the last one was an acquaintance from school. Let's call my friends Alex and Jake, and the acquaintance Victor. Our DM was a really nice guy who was willing to run an incredible adventure. I created an elf wizard. Alex made a Dullahan druid. Jake made a Lufu fighter, and Victor created a goblin noble. Now, the noble is a support/tank class based on charisma. It requires a lot of attention to your party and to the battlefield. And as the DM has said, since we had 2 beginners, me and Alex, his would be a classic heroic adventures. But Victor had other plans. His goblin was actually a pimp, and its only function in combat was to summon goblin prostitutes to surround him and protect him, while the rest of us had to fend for ourselves. Yes, he picked a support class so he would not support the party. That selflessness forced Alex to become the support, which made his character sheet a mess because he had to deal damage and heal, and for a beginner who had not planned on doing that, it was at the very least frustrating. We couldn't even finish an adventure or any mission. Rescue prisoners from the knoll? No. Victor and his goblins preferred to join them in business, summoning goblin prostitutes to... well, he is putting the prostitutes to work. That's all I'm saying. And that did not even work. We got chased, and I lost my character before even reaching level 3. He constantly made his prostitutes offer sex to everything and everyone, including us, whenever he wanted something from us. We asked him to stop, and he said that a greedy pimp never stops. I was already so angry that my character was a human inventor focused on firearms, under the excuse that he was hunting a goblin, just so I could shoot him. Yes, I know that maybe Alex and I should have talked to the DM about it, but the DM, Victor and Jake, already knew each other and were pretty close. Alex and I were the newcomers and did not want to show up complaining, especially when I would be the one who had to say something since Alex was never someone who took initiative. But there was a problem with the idea of killing the goblin, Jake's character. Jake seems to be the kind of person who sees RPGs only as a numbers game. His character was ultra optimized and deliberately made him to have no personality. He hid his face, never took part in dialogues, and never voiced opinions. It got to the point where, after reading this letter saying that his wife and daughter had died, his reaction was, that's a shame. Jake did everything he could to avoid making decisions or role-playing, so he chose to be the Goblin's pimp's henchman, doing whatever he was told. So if we tried to attack him, Jake made it very clear that his overpowered character would turn against us. But it got to the point we could not do anything anymore. The first city we arrived in, within 5 minutes, we got arrested because Victor was offering his prostitutes on a public street in broad daylight. If we found a base, he would only talk about turning it into a brothel. We even managed to corner a boss, but Victor let him go, and we lost the XP, because he wanted to do business with him. And the worst part, while he described a scene with his prostitutes, we could hear a constant, you almost got me there. I'm not falling for it. I'm not reading it. But you'll see it on screen. I'm not reading it. I'm moving on. After that, I could not take it anymore. I complained to the DM and asked to leave the table. Why'd you ask to leave the table? What? Just leave. It was no longer just a matter of an annoying character. I did not want to be in the presence of that sick person anymore. To this day, I've only managed to play Tomato 20 with this experience and one other just as frustrating. I always wanted to get into D&D, Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu, and so on. But with Jake only liking to play Tomato 20 because it has high unbalanced numbers and not wanting to play any other system since he does not like RP, with Victor being a vermin and with Alex and me no longer being friends, I can say that every RPG experience I ever had, especially with Tomato 20, was traumatic or frustrating. And well, that's definitely not only is it a communication error, I think it's a goblin pimp error. Look, having to plan to try to kill someone's character in game, this isn't going to be fun. Look, if you're not having fun, just leave, okay? I mean, I always say that, but it's never that simple, okay? I get it, but you can always find other people. I know that's also not that simple too, but there are groups out there. There is online D&D. There are other things you can do, and at the end of the day, just not playing is also the best part. I mean, if you were going this far into it and you were not having fun, just don't play at all. Just leave the group and find something else. I know you really want to get into the RPG, but if you're just going to have bad experiences, then there's no point in trying to get into something if all around you is just bad experiences, unless you find another group that will give you a good experience. Now, I'm not going to talk about the story itself because it's quite obvious why the story is horrid. A goblin pimp. Oh yeah, this is just it's not even a miscommunication. I guess it is miscommunication. It's just a guy who wanted to play the game his way, and then he had another person who didn't want to play an RPG. Well, he wanted to play an RPG, but he didn't want to play a tabletop. I don't know. Most tabletop RPGs I played, all of them have been around storytelling, and I mean, yeah, of course, they're always going to have numbers and decisions and skills for your class and your character. You know, it's all going to be about building, quotation marks, a character, but at the forefront, most of them always are about you as a player interacting with the world and making decisions. It's about the player adding to the story, continuing the story, and the DM throwing obstacles and stuff in the way for the story, for the sake of the story. You can't just sit aside. I mean, you can just sit aside and not make decisions, but that takes a lot of the fun out of it. Most of the fun is it's a tabletop. You get to do what you want to do, what you've always did that you can't really do in real life, you know, quotation marks around that. I mean, there's some stuff you can do, but you know, you can't cast fireballs and slay giant monsters in real life, so you might as well do it in an RPG. And of course, making decisions, choosing factions to side with, or people to help, or you know, moral options and all that. It's all just part of the tabletop role-playing experience. So sitting aside and not doing that is deeply going to hinder it. Not only you, but other people. The whole point of playing with other people is that those people can also make decisions that affect the story. And you guys can make decisions together or against each other. But when you have one player, if they just care about numbers, they might as well just go play a single-player RPG, okay? Boot up Skyrim or something and load it with a bunch of mods or whatever. Play Baldur's Gate 3. There you go. You never have to make a true decision ever again. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just leave, just don't play if the experience with these people aren't going to be good. They can still be good friends, they just suck to play RPGs with. And let's move into our next story. Our next story comes from Golden Sucks. I remember this name. Sucks to see they have another story. Campaign ended because I let a player kick a kobold. I guess we're just bullying short people this episode. Was running a homebrew setting campaign for several months with 5 players. 3 of them were fairly relaxed and 2 were much more number crunchy focused. We had a good mix of new and veteran players, but it was going well, or so I thought. The party were tasked to clear a mine being used by an evil faction. A combination of kobolds and lizardmen were running the mine. The players detonated an explosion to seal part of the mine, which sent a horse. I think they mean horde, but a horse of goblin. Kobolds. Whatever. Tiny little creatures. The players detonated an explosion to steal part of the mine, which sent a horde of kobold into a complete panic. I ran a battle encounter where I didn't put any kobolds on the field, but ran them as layer actions. They weren't a threat on their own in this case, so I thought it would be clever to run them as layer actions with them getting in the way or pushing around the party while they did battle with the lizard men. They did no damage, but served more as obstacles for the players. It was going well until one of the players wanted to be funny and said he wanted to kick a kobold as a bonus action. I said since it didn't really matter to the battle ongoing, I would allow it, so I played it up as a joke and even did a Wilhelm scream for good measure. Nothing changed at all in the battle. Immediately after that, the next player now wanted to kick a lizard man as a bonus action for an advantage. I told him I let it happen for the kobold because it had no effect on the battle taking place for a laugh. While this upset the player and another player at the table, saying how I need to learn how to play the game and not let people cheat so openly, I tried to explain that it had no game effect and was just flavor for the scene, but this just made them more upset. We finished the session with some bitterness. After everyone left, the two players that got upset decided to quit along with another player who is married to one of those, thus ending the campaign. I get people want a rules-tight combat-driven game, but letting even a silly joke pass was far too much. So that's how kicking a kobold ended an entire campaign for me. And wow, probably, good riddance that they left. If they can't handle that, you just let them kick it for whatever and it had no effect, and then they say openly cheat? What's cheating? They just spent their bonus action doing something in the scene. It just added to the, maybe not the story overall, but it added to the scene and spiced things up. What's cheating? And then you want to kick a lizard man for advantage? What? These people need to learn how to. These people need to learn how to play RPGs, not the OP. Whatever the DM says, go. If he's letting a bonus action to kick a kobold, then yeah, it has no effect on the battle. But if you want a bonus kick to kick a lizard, I guess you could kick it. It's not gonna do anything. There you go. You got to spend your bonus action kicking a lizard. That's what I would have done. If they hated that and it didn't give them anything, oh well, they left. Good riddance, I say. Find some new people. Jeez, take a joke, people. But I think a lot of that, came from the comments of this one. Let's just move on to our last story. Our last story comes from Recent Aid 1598. DM accuses me of metagaming because I use damage types that the enemies are weak to. Been playing with this group for a short while and it has been alright. Some internal conflicts, some people not getting along and such, but it has been okay. So I've read this. I picked it. I didn't read it, but I picked it because I was reading the comments about it, and there was a lot of discourse about the metagaming. But let's read the story before I get into, maybe if I read the story for myself, I'll have a different opinion on what the people down below were replying to. But anyways, let's read. Last night, the group was about to fight a mad scientist and his robot/warforged/clockwork guards. Keep in mind, these are homebrew made by my DM, meaning I know nothing about the sets, and I could not have looked them up even if I wanted to. I would assume robots would be weak to electricity, meaning lightning damage, right? So I cast Chromatic Orb with lightning damage, lightning bolt, etc., and the guards die easily. The DM stops the game right there and says, "If you're just going to metagame, then you can just leave." I was, of course, unsure what he meant, so I asked him to elaborate. He says that if you're just going to use damage types to your advantage like that, it takes the fun out of combat. You did the exact same thing with radiant damage last game in the crypt when fighting the undead too. I'm sick of it, and everyone else is too. I say that it's only logical to use certain damage type against certain enemies, like how I would use fire against ice enemies and so on. I also asked others if it was true that everyone else was sick of it too, and people kinda mumbled as an answer and I could not really hear them. DM said he would give me one last chance, and next time you metagame like that, I will kick you instantly. I agreed, but now I'm kind of unsure if I want to keep playing in that group. Edit. People are asking, so I'll fill it in. This is sort of D&D, but it's our own post-apocalyptic world. Lore in short is that some phenomenon caused the world of D&D to crash into ours. Things like electricity-powered things are uncommon, but not rare. So my character, and like everyone else, would know that electricity flies electric-powered things. And that's the end of our story. Is this metagaming? I don't know. A lot of it can be pure logic based on the character. From the comments, a lot of people are saying this is kind of metagaming because it's a bleed of using your IRL knowledge mixed with what your person would know. Because how was your person know that radiant damage is strong against zombies? But we don't know the entire story and it's full. Maybe the OP had casted several spells before and then landed on radiant, and radiant's the one that worked. But it's also common knowledge that I think undead things would be technically weak to radiant / light damage, and I feel like in most worlds that kind of makes sense. I mean, literally in D&D, clerics have a turn undead. So in most, if you're playing a cleric, you would know that radiant works against the undead. Maybe not the common adventurer, but again, I don't know. A lot of this seems like, as someone in the comments said, this could be solved with knowledge rolls. How much does your character know? If your character's a monster hunter, I feel like for the most part, he should know what most monsters might be weak to, either through personal experience or through reading stories or just information gathered by other hunters that have been relayed back to them. So maybe it's like, oh yeah, zombies are weak to holy damage. Who would have guessed? And it's like the same thing. It's like knowing that trolls are weak to fire. Is it trolls? Yeah. And like D&D, trolls are weak to fire. You use fire on them, they can't regenerate health anymore. Would it be metagaming to know if fire works well against trolls? Well, just depends on the setting. Are trolls common? Are you a monster hunter? And, you know, all that other stuff that links into it. So when it comes to metagaming, sometimes it can be hard to separate your knowledge from your character's knowledge. I mostly try not to do that. Like, even if I know the weakness of an enemy in game, I usually try to formulate some type of, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like I want to help my character know the weakness, but I don't want to do it outright. So this is why knowledge rolls exist, or like, yeah, just intelligence checks and stuff like that. But if I'm playing like a sheltered noble who's never stepped a foot out in his life, again, that noble could have a large library where they just read about monsters all day, and they just know the weaknesses. And the DM saying, oh, you shouldn't use advantages against what the enemies are weak to, that makes the combat boring. But that's kind of the point of giving weaknesses to enemies. If enemies didn't have weaknesses, everything would be really slow and dragging. I mean, obviously not every enemy's going to have a weakness. Like a bandit, obviously they're not going to be weak to like anything, but they're also not strong against anything. Having weaknesses is not that bad, and it can make combat more fun. It lets the characters be able to shine when they plan for that thing, such as using holy spells in the grave. And also, who cares? You literally DM. You could throw an infinite number of monsters at them. Like, literally, you could just throw an infinite number of monsters at them until they die. So who cares if they kill your creatures really quickly? And that's not even the point. The point is to tell a story. You're not trying to win them over. Wow, that just makes combat boring. Then make your monsters intricate. Okay, even if they have a weakness, you can still give them stuff that makes them still hard to go against, even if the party has holy damage or lightning damage. Or you could throw them for a loop. And like, yeah, robots are weak to lightning, then throw a robot at them that isn't weak to lightning, and now they have to figure something else out. I don't know. There's all sorts of things you can do to make unique enemies. I know for me, for Fabula Ultima, that's no problem. Actually, I like giving vulnerabilities to my enemies so my players can figure it out and take down the boss faster. It's just, I don't know, it's more fun. It just lets, to me, it's just fun to see my players overcome obstacles in the game. I like giving bosses weaknesses, and they don't usually steamroll. And they did steamroll it, I'll just throw another boss at them. It's like, it's such a non-issue for the DM. If they're tearing through everything, then throw something harder at them if you really want a hard combat, but that shouldn't be the point. The point is to tell a fun and exciting story, and I think for me it's fun to see my players get through my dungeons. That's what I want them to do. I want them to get through the dungeons. I want them to fight the things I put down. So at the end of this rant, ramble, whatever you want to call it, is this metagaming? I don't really think so. I don't think it's metagaming. I think it's pretty like, oh, it's a robot, slap with lightning. I think I would do the same thing. I don't know. And then maybe fire or something. I don't know. You could literally select just different spells until it works. It's like, oh, lightning works against them. Cool. Are you going to get mad now that they're starting to use lightning against everything after spending I don't know, extra spell slots to figure out what they're weak to. It really is such a non-thing, and at least the DM voiced their concerns to the OP. I can say that much instead of letting it sit back and brew. Maybe not interrupt them during the middle of it, but just threatening to kick them and kind of holding it. Because to the DM, it's like, what's metagaming to you? Because metagaming could be like anything. I don't know. Just going off the comments, a lot of people have different opinions and whatnot on what metagaming is. Literally just using RL knowledge. I feel like metagaming would be like, oh, that thing has 300. You know what? I do have a good story for metagaming. We've been playing SMT3, not SMT3. We've been playing SMT Shin Megami Tensei Tokyo Conception. Put it on screen right here. We've been playing that not recently, but we played a couple sessions, and if you played the game, a lot of the monsters in the Tokyo Conception have weaknesses similar to in the game. But for me, I've been avoiding, well, first of all, I'm using a physical-based character, but we do have a spellcasters. We have spellcasters in the party, but I'm not telling them what to use. Now, if they do happen to use something that the enemy's strong against, I can't help but, like, giggle. I'll even tell them to use stuff that they're, you know, call me. We're a group of friends. We like to pal around. It's like, yeah, that thing's weak to ice. You should use ice. And then it's like, it does nothing. I don't know. It's just funny. It's whatever. It's my group. It's just how our group plays. It's just, I don't know. We laugh about it. It's great. We've all actually, like, not matured. I guess it's matured as we play TTRPG. I think people take it too seriously sometimes. I think sometimes you just need to just relax, have a goof. You know, it's not that serious. It's just a game. Have fun. That's all you can do. Have fun. So, OP, if you're being threatened and you think the DM's just going to kick you, then just leave anyways. And, you know, it's not that easy to say, but again, sometimes it's just better to have a good experience rather than feeling like you're being held at shotgun point all the time. You know, am I going to get in trouble if I use water against a fire enemy? Just screw you. I'm out of here. Go find a new group. Find someone else to give your time to. But that is the end of this episode. Actually, I feel like this was a pretty banger episode, okay? Ain't gonna lie. I gotta part myself up for that one. They're pretty awesome. But thank to you, OPs, for writing these stories out for me to read. They have been a blast, even though the stuff in them might not have been a blast. But, you know, they were a blast to read, and hopefully my advice might help. Remember, use my advice with caution. I'm just a person online, a stranger. You know, you might see my videos, but at the end of the day, I'm still just a complete stranger. So don't follow my advice to a T. You know what's happening in your real-life scenarios or settings, or you know what's happening in real life compared to what I know. So just take anything I say and anything anybody says online with a grain of salt. That's what I always say. Take everything with a grain of salt you see online. And thank you if you made it this far and got through all that rambling for watching this video. If you like it, leave a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe. If you want to tell me your own horror stories, I have social media down in the description for you to reach out to me. And I hope you gobs have a lop of a day. May your adventures be fun and lighthearted. Unless you're in a dark setting and you want a more serious game, then let your DM know, or your DM should let you know, and you guys can talk about it and have a good discussion.